So we're starting. Om Ganati Virandasya
Anjala Shlakaya Chakshurunamitam Yena Tamishri Guru Venama
Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam
Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupa Kadamaya Vandeham Krishna Krishna Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaisnavam Sri Rupa Sakajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Tam Sujutam Sadvaitam Savadvitam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopijatanta Radhakanta Namostate Bhakta Kanchan Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sundara Evacha Buddhanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gurvani Pachayani Devi Sheshakumavari Pachakara Desatayani Namaste Danyaya Krishna Premi Padaya Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Deva Krishna Namaha Ananda Lilamaya Vigrahaya Himada Vijaya Vishudaya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasa Padaya Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So everybody has handout except one more to do it. Just go. Give a handout. There's an extra handout. Okay. All right. So this is week 43, Bhakti Viksha. The Srinamamrita, the nectar of the holy name. Srinamamrita, the nectar of the holy name. So it starts with the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra revives one's dormant eternal Krishna consciousness. Very important statement in of itself. This is why we chant the Hare Krishna mantra in this age of Kali Yuga. It is to revive the dormant consciousness that's there. There are quite a few texts in Bhagavad Gita especially that talk about this. In Srimad Bhagavatam also. The Krishna consciousness is already there. It's already there. But because of forgetfulness and because of material life, we don't connect properly with our own consciousness, the Krishna consciousness, what is actually our constitutional position. And so the Hare Krishna mantra, Krishna in the name, Krishna is absolute. So in his name, the Hare Krishna mantra and Krishna are non-different. So when you chant Krishna's name, you have Krishna. So this is how, through that, we revive the dormant consciousness, Krishna consciousness. So to continue, the transcendental vibration established by the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, is the sublime method for reviving our transcendental consciousness. As living spiritual souls, we are all originally Krishna consciousness entities. But due to our association with matter from time immemorial, our consciousness is now adulterated by the material aspect. So this is expressing that we are originally Krishna conscious, but because we now have connected with the material world, then the consciousness is now, in one sense, muddled up by the material atmosphere. So, continue, the material atmosphere in which we are now living is called Maya, or illusion. Maya means that which is not. And what's this illusion? The illusion is that we are all trying to be lords of material nature, while actually we are under the grip of astringent laws. When a servant artificially tries to imitate the all-powerful master, he is said to be an illusion. We're trying to exploit the resources of material nature, but actually we're becoming more and more entangled in her complexities. So, the way life is, it's kind of difficult to understand this point, or take it in, that, and practically nowhere would you hear this statement made, that we're trying to control material. Everybody is trying to get a better life. That's only the reason. If that's the only reason, we're just trying to get a better life. Somebody says, well, we're trying to control material nature. Well, I'm not trying to control material nature. I'm just trying to get a better life. Make life easier for me. But then, as this text here, Srila Prabhupada explains here, what we're going through is illusion. And hopefully by the end of this program, we'll see more why we're in illusion and how we're in illusion. Why and how, both. All it's saying at this point we've read is that we are actually under the grip of astringent laws. Material life controls us. It controls us every step. And if we put some intelligence to it, we will realize that that is very true. You could just mention anything about the 5 elements. Earth, water, fire, air, and ether, or we call space. They all control us. The earth controls us. Because if the earth is calm, then we can walk on it, we can drive on it. But when an earthquake comes, we can't do anything. We can stop you in your track anytime it wants. The water can stop us in our track anytime it wants. You just let it be a flood, and all your programs are off. Let there be fire. We have an fire engine trucks trying to put out a fire or something. Forest fire. You hear it in the news. All we can do is talk about it. But we're powerless to fight against these things whenever they happen. The air. Well, when you have the air now going into a storm category, increasing the speed, then things just, tornado, it's air. Tornado is air. But look how much damage it can do. So each one of these 5 can in fact control us. So, especially, practically everybody here probably has been in a plane, in an airplane. Up in the sky, especially when the weather is nice, there are no clouds, and you can see down. I've looked at this before and I said, look how helpless we are. We've been up about 5 miles up. When you look down, everything looks so little. Everything looks so little. So the big weather can come in and change things anytime you like. So really, it is material nature that controls us. And when material nature plays it in such a way that we can, in fact, go about our business, then we tend to forget that it has complete control over us. And anytime things change, when there's water, the water just overflows, when there's tsunami, tidal waves, goes up 30, 40 feet up in the air, everybody's running away. Buildings are moved, cars are battered around like they're nothing. So it really, really, really controls us materially. So if that's not happening, or if it is happening still, the fact is the laws can actually overtake us anytime we want. So to continue, although we are engaged in a hand struggle to conquer nature, we are ever more dependent on her. This illusory struggle against material nature can be stopped at once by the revival of our eternal Krishna consciousness. What happens when this process, transcendental process, is embarked on, taken out by us? And that helps to revive our Krishna consciousness. Then we realize that there is no point fighting against material nature. We actually don't even belong here. We're not from here. So then the common sense, that once a person thinks, all right, I'm not from here, material nature cannot be controlled by me, then the good questions start coming up. Well, how did I get here? How do I get out? Which is the process now that the Parampara, this is the Prabhupada's point, his time, and Sri Prabhupada's material, they are spiritual sons, okay, the disciples and spiritual daughters, his disciples, are telling us, continuing the same process and the same transcendental message being given to us. So it's an illusory struggle. Illusory because we think we can win, but we never win. That's the illusion. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare is a transcendental process for reviving. Maybe we should say the whole thing, right? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is the transcendental process for reviving the original pure consciousness. By chanting this transcendental vibration, we can cleanse away all misgivings within our hearts. The basic principles of all such misgivings is the false consciousness that I am the Lord of all that I survey. This false consciousness is I am the Lord of all that I survey. Even if a person has a lot of properties, and I saw this one time, this is years back, about 20 years ago, could have been 25 years ago. I was in Maryland, and in the evening there was a program on TV, and there was one very wealthy lady that was being interviewed. Actually, the interview is just broadcast 15 minutes of it. The program is called 60 Minutes. 15-minute segment, and they were standing, she and the person that is the host of the program, they were standing at a particular place, up high, on top of like a skyscraper, and she was pointing, so this building, and this building, and this building, and this building, all of this area, they're all mine. She was pointing how much wealth he has in real estate, that building, and they have all clumped together, and these are all very big buildings. And she says she owns all of them. Now that may be true in her mind, but at any time, death can come and take it all away from her. As soon as death comes, what do you own now? The physical body just stops working, and that's the end of all of this. They may have your name on there now, signing a deed that you own this property and this property and this property. But the only thing you can ever do is write it out in a will and give it to somebody else. Because you know the time will come when you won't own it. And so that is the illusion. We think we are in control, but actually we're here for a very limited time, and the things that are so-called under our control never becomes a situation where we're controlling after we leave this particular plane, we leave this body, or the body stops working. So then, the intelligent person will begin to plan. What happens after I leave this body? What's the best thing to do? This is the best thing to do, what we're doing right now, being involved in Krishna consciousness. So, to come back to this, Krishna consciousness is not an artificial imposition on the mind. This consciousness is the original natural energy of the living entity. When we hear this transcendental vibration, then this consciousness is revived. The simplest method of meditation is recommended for this age. This one is recommended. Simply chant. No other means of spiritual realization is as effective in this age of quarrel and hypocrisy as the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So if you keep chanting month after month, year after year, and we should say decade after decade. So just make it a part of your life. The main part of your life, to chant Hare Krishna Mantra, chant japa, and also after that, wherever you are, you keep chanting. As 2 days ago in Harrisburg, or Lemoyne I should say, Bhavana Prabhu was giving a lecture, and he was reminding all of us there are no hard and fast rules for chanting. You can chant anywhere, at any time. And he gave several examples, we won't get into that, but quite a few examples, which were very, very, very interesting. So the Hare Krishna Mantra has been, the process of reviving the Krishna consciousness has been made very, very simple in this age. In ages before, you have to go through quite a bit of preparation in order to get the kind of spiritual benefit that you get by just chanting the mantra now. So it's on us to take advantage of it. Spiritual edification. From Bhagavad Gita as it is, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Bhagavad Gita chapter 6 and text 18. 6:18. Can we say together, all of us? We have a program? Okay. We have the handout. Okay, we can start now. Yada vinuyatam chitam atmani devavatishtete nispriha java kamevyo yukta ityuchate tada. The translation is, when the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga. When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of material desires, all material desires, then he is said to be well established in yoga. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, the activities of the yogi are distinguished from the activities of an ordinary person by his characteristic cessation from all kinds of material desires, of which sex is the chief. A perfect yogi is so well disciplined in the activities of the mind that he can no longer be disturbed by any kind of material desire. This perfectional stage can automatically be attained by persons with consciousness. So, a yogi who has been able for us, by chanting at this point, this is the yoga we involve with the chanting of the holy name, and doing that regularly, we can get to the point where our minds cannot be disturbed by any kind of material desires. Material desires would be there, we can see them, but not play into it mentally. That can happen. So, as they say, first, the idea comes, and then we may think about it, and then may ponder even more about it, and then later on we want to get into it and then act whatever it is that's coming to our mind. It's called thinking, feeling, and willing. Now, the thinking won't stop because the material things are there. We see them, we can't be in denial that we have seen those things. But our intelligence is able to distinguish what is to be done and what is not to be done. And so the intelligence should immediately, once we've seen something, process it and say, all right, this helps my Krishna consciousness, therefore I should continue to do that, or act in that. This one does not help my Krishna consciousness, therefore, whatever my mind and my senses are telling me to do, to act on it, I'm not going to do that. This is the situation, once you get to that one now, as it says here, can no longer be disturbed by any kind of material desire. Seeing it is not desire. But once you see it, and now you begin to connect with it, then desires come. Okay, desires come. And then it's a question of acting on it or not acting. In other words, the person gets tempted. And that is the desire stage. So we shouldn't even get to the temptation stage. Now, it's not an artificial thing. You can't just artificially stop being tempted. But when we get more and more and more into chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra seriously, and then we serve sincerely, then Krishna arranges to push these material desires aside. Gradually, the things that we used to enjoy doing that we know was not helping us in Krishna consciousness, then it can be stopped. And individually, each person is given the way in which they can stop that activity, individually. So that's why chanting is important, serving is important, but then it's not so easy to give specific directions as to how you can stop your material desire, because it changes. My material desire may not be the same as yours. But if you take the same process seriously, Krishna will help you. You literally custom designs how you can get out of the material desires. It actually happens that way. And year in, year out, we begin to realize, oh, okay, so then I used to do this. Now I've been given good reason not to, so this is stopped, and the other one is stopped, and the other one is stopped. My spiritual master explains this to me. Growth in Krishna consciousness, it's like peeling an onion. So you peel the outside of it, and then as you grow, then you can peel more, and then the inside it just goes on and on and on and on and on and on. And as you get inner into it, then many of the desires fall away, and then they are replaced. Not that it just becomes blank. It's replaced by spiritual activities. And another thing comes along with it. The heart begins to become happier. The internal happiness, you begin to get a taste of it. It is actually a very, very, very practical and real process. And if we don't embark on it, then of course material desires will come, and we get still entangled in this bondage of material activities. So Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 4, Text 18 through 20. Very, very important 3 shlokas here that describe Maharaj Amrish, how he used his senses in Krishna consciousness. So, we'll start reading. Savai Mana Krishna Paravindayo Vacham Sri. You can join if you want. Vaikunta Gunanu Varnane Karao Hare Mandira Mejanadishu Shutin Chakra Chita Sat Kato Taye Mukunda Lingalaya Dashani Dushav Tad Brita Gatra Spase Ya Sangamam Grihanam Tat Cha Tat Pada Saroja Sarve Shirat Tulashya Rasanam Tad Arpite Padao Hare Shetra Padanu Sarpane Shiro Hishikesha Padavindan Padavivandane. Kamam Chabdashe Natu Kama Kamyaya Yato Tama Shloka Janashriya Ratihi. In the translation, King Amrish first of all engaged his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Then, one after another, he engaged his words in describing the transcendental qualities of the Lord, his hands in mopping the temple of the Lord, his ears in hearing the activities of the Lord, his eyes in seeing the transcendental forms of the Lord, his body in touching the bodies of the devotees, his sense of smell in smelling the scents of the lotus flowers offered to the Lord, his tongue in tasting tulasi leaf offered at the lotus feet of the Lord, his legs in going to places of pilgrimage in the temple of the Lord, his head in offering obeisances unto the Lord, and his desires in executing the mission of the Lord. All these transcendental activities are quite befitting a pure devotee. So Maharaj Amrish, the first line here says he engaged his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. The mind is connected to the senses. So once we push our mind, connect the mind to the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, then the senses follow. And so here is described in detail, one after another. He engaged his words in describing the transcendental qualities of the Lord, therefore he was involved in Krishna Katha. His hands in cleaning the temple. His ears, as we're always trying to do, hear and then chant, hear and then chant. He's hearing the activities of the Lord. Eyes, looking at the deities, transcendental forms of the Lord. Body, in touching the bodies of the devotees. Sense of smell, he was smelling the lotus flowers and the flowers offered to the Lord. Tongue, tasting prasadam and tasting the tulsi leaf. Legs, going to places of pilgrimage in the temple of the Lord. And also offering obeisances with his head. And of course, his mind was focused on executing mission of the Lord. So he engaged all his senses then in transcendental service, the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the devotees. So Sri Prabhupada is saying here, this transcendental state may be inexpressible subjectively by the followers of the impersonal path, but it becomes very easy and practical for a person in Krishna consciousness, as is apparent in the above description of the engagement of Maharaj Ambarish. So impersonalists. Well, impersonalists are connected to two things, connected to the transcendental rays, the Brahmajyoti, the rays coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and their point is to try to merge with that ray, to become one with the rays. Or there are others too who are in meditation wanting to know the Paramatma, the yogis, the Lord in the heart. Knowing the Lord in the heart is good, but that's not the fullness of Krishna. That's not the fullness, not Krishna in full. Krishna in full is what devotees are directed to become involved with. That is, the being able to literally serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We cannot see the Lord with these eyes that we have. But by the mercy of the Lord, knowing that we can be trained to serve the Lord, then he has appeared in his deity form. The deity is the Lord. And so we get an opportunity to serve the Lord in different ways, offering all kinds of paraphernalia from ghee to flowers to handkerchief and actual boga also, offering all of that, and then singing praises to the Lord and even dancing in front of the Lord. So the deity is extreme mercy by the Lord, appearing in this way, so that even with our material eyes, we are able to serve the Lord in that way and actually interchange with the Lord like that. And so the senses can then be used then in serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead in that way. Now, transcendentalists can do that, devotees can do that, but impersonal people, Mayavadis especially, their way of thinking about the Supreme Personality of Godhead is flawed because they cannot serve on a personal way. We continue, unless the mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord by constant remembrance, such transcendental engagements are not practical. This also is supported by Srila Rupa Goswami in Nectar Devotion. Always think about the Lord, never forget the Lord. Accept all things favorable in serving the Lord for devotional service, and reject all things unfavorable for devotional service. This is something that we should wear. Thinking about the Lord, never forgetting the Lord. Everything that we're doing, we should look at it and think, will this help me in my devotional service? Yes, then do it. Will this help me in my devotional service? No, then we stay away from it. So that way, then most of the time, our senses are being used in serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, in the devotional service of the Lord, these practical activities, these activities are called archana, engaging the senses in the service of the Lord. The senses and the mind require engagement. So, simply staying away, abnegation, is not practical. Therefore, for people in general, especially those who are not in the renounced order of life, transcendental engagement of the senses and the mind, as described above, is the perfect process for transcendental achievement. And this is called yukta in the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so, decent time now. Serving the Lord. one thing that's kept coming over and over and over again, it started with the 3 slokas from Srimad Bhagavatam, how Maharaj Amrish was using his senses in serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we're being told here, the process is called Archana, engaging all the senses in serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Especially those who are not in a renounced order of life, and that's practically all of us here. Nobody's a sannyasi. So, very important to use the senses to serve the Lord in every way that we can, in all times that we can. Okay. Now, a few questions here. And the answer to this question is not too far away. The first question, it says, when a person is situated, when is a person said to be situated in perfect yoga? When is a person said to be situated in perfect yoga? If we look at the first text, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, text 18. You see where it is in your handout? Yes. All right. So we said set it together, and then the translation is there. When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be established in, well established in yoga. So the answer to that is, when a person gets to the point where he is devoid of material desires, then he is established in yoga. Right, so that answers the first question. Now, next, understanding, question number 1. How do persons in Krishna consciousness achieve this perfection automatically? Explain with the example of King Amrish. Okay, not when I'm putting it out to all of you. How do persons in Krishna consciousness achieve this perfection automatically? Explain with the example of King Amrish. So what did King Amrish do? Yes, his mind focused, and then after his mind comes what? All the senses. Yeah. And then in that text, in the 3 slokas in Srimad Bhagavatam, is described one by one sense after another, and how Maharaj Amrish used that in service to the Lord. So just like before we got to this end, the process of Archana, we should involve ourselves in using the senses, all the senses, in serving Supreme Personality of Godhead. Number 2, when is it possible for us to be always engaged in transcendental engagement? When is it possible? You know the answer, but you don't feel that that's the answer. That is the correct answer. Just say, hey, well, come on. When is it possible? So when means you're asking about time. When is it possible for us to be always engaged in the transcendental engagement? The question actually answers itself, but what's the answer to that? Always. The question says, when is it possible for us to be always engaged? Well, always means all the time. So actually, the answer was in the question itself. It's a trick question. Why is it much easier for devotees to achieve a transcendental state than the impersonalist? Why is it much easier for devotees to achieve transcendental state than the impersonalist? Is it easier for us to do Krishna consciousness? What do we do? Yes, so what do we do for Krishna consciousness? What's the easiest thing we do? Chanting the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So I'll tell you something that my spiritual master explained to us quite a few times in lectures he was talking about it. This age has several advantages. We know the disadvantage. Yeah? Life is difficult. That part we know, because we go through it every day. Now, because other ages is not as difficult as Kali Yuga. Now, the advantage if you're going to be in the material world in Kali Yuga, the demigods see that far more than we see it. Because we're here and we're going through suffering. they enjoy. Their life is much, materially that is, their life is much longer than ours. But they also know that it comes to an end. Their life also comes to an end. They also must die. And it's not all wonderful. There's rivalry. There's things like that are also in the heavenly planets. They're still there. All kinds of things that happen. We won't begin to this. That'll be a long story. The spiritual master for the demigods and what he involved in something that's very shameful. And still, in the heavenly planets, those things happen. But since they know about the Supreme Personality of God, even sometimes they actually see Him. We see the deity, they see the Lord Himself. Their activities, well, let's tell you one. When the Lord decided to punish Kaliya, the snake, for so many things that he did, killing even his own cowherd boys, they died from the poison that he poisoned the lake connected to the Muna. When the Lord decided to kill him, first he went to the abode, he jumped into the water. He went where Kaliya was. Kaliya's wife saw him. Cute boy. They didn't know he was the Supreme Personality of God. So they're saying, you should leave this place because our husband will tear you to pieces. But he ignored them. He did not leave. And Kaliya finally tackled Krishna, got him in his grips, snake coil. The cowherd boys, Mother Yashoda, Nanda Maharaj, they were all in great anxiety because for 2 hours, Krishna remained in the coils of Kaliya. Now, so 2 hours, you can imagine they were going crazy. They were going crazy. Krishna's going to die, and they couldn't stand, because they also don't know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. They are in Yoga Maya, with the illusion. Now, Radha Maharaj describes to Kaliya, for us, Kaliya looks very big. Because Kaliya extends up to, in this modern age, the height of a skyscraper. Like the United Nations skyscraper in New York. It's that big. Now, Balaram, brother of Krishna, he's also Ananta, right? The snake. He's way bigger than Kaliya. Kaliya is like a little puny thing, compared to Ananta. Now, I bring up Balaram's name because Balaram was looking at the situation and said, well, Krishna doesn't play with me like that. He's playing with Kaliya. So he's not even thinking in terms of Krishna dying. He never thought Krishna was going to die because somebody can kill Krishna. He's the supreme in everything. Anyway, he got out after 2 hours out of the grips of Kaliya. And then he started moving around Kaliya, going around. And snakes, they always, if they're facing you, they like to be looking straight at you. They don't want you to be behind them. So if you move around, they will move around. But Krishna was moving fast enough that Kaliya twirled it out and now started to get dizzy. And then when he got dizzy after a point, then Krishna jumped on the hood and started dancing. Now the cowherd boys and Mother Yashoda, they all have seen at that point Krishna, at least they knew he wasn't going to die. And then he changes the mood totally. And then he starts dancing. Krishna is an expert dancer. The demigods saw that and immediately they came. The Gandharvas and all of those that play wonderful music and singing, they were looking at Krishna directly. Then, as Krishna was dancing, now, Krishna was not to those who were looking into the demigods, he definitely was dancing. But to Kaliya, he was being hit badly on the head by Krishna. And so for every step that he took, it looked graceful to those who were watching, but to Kaliya, they were like blows on the head of the snake. So he was really, really suffering, and the Acharyas described that Krishna literally purified Kaliya mentally and physically also. Because he beat him up badly until finally Kaliya realized that this is the Supreme Lord, because nobody could really fight Kaliya, except of course Garuda who drove Kaliya away in the first place. But I bring this pastime out to show you that the demigods do get an opportunity to even relate to Krishna directly. Now, of course, they go back to their abodes after that, and still all kinds of disturbances are there because it's part of the material world. So in Kali Yuga, a good many of them are trying to come to this particular planet to take birth among devotees, take birth in the womb of devotee women, so that they can get an opportunity to use this process, which is a very simple process, chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, and live for less than 100 years. See, to us, it seems like very long and stuff, and they're looking at it, they get to live less than 100 years. The average time in the heavenly planets, our 6 months is there 1 day. Okay? Like that. 3 months is 1 day, not 6 months. But it's still a long time, literally, 60 days. We go to 60 days, they go into 1 day. So for them, even if it's Kali Yuga to them, their 100 years is 100 times, 60 for us. So it goes into the thousands. So if they look at the time that they have to live, and of course, we need to talk about Brahmaloka, and that's millions and millions of years. We're talking about the planets are not all in the same category. These are the moon planet, for example, live that period of time. Now, so they're looking at us here. We have the mantra. The process is very simple. You live a short life, and you can transcend. In fact, because of the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and Parampara, you can go to Goloka Vrindavan, the best of the Vaikuntha planets. You actually can go on this short period of time. So many of them want to come. Many of them want to come to this earth at this time among devotees in order to take birth, and many of them have come. Now, as my spiritual master describes it, it's almost like there's a line, your turn to go, your turn to go, your turn to go. Okay, here's a young couple, they want to have a child. Most of the children you're going to have are from the heavenly planets. If you take this process seriously, they're not going to get born by a non-devotee woman or man. They don't, because then they will be directed towards things that are not Krishna conscious. So it's devotee around, and there are fewer devotee women than there are non-devotee women. And that's why it takes longer for them to be able to come. They definitely do want to come. So those of us who are here, if the demigods with all that wealth want to get into our position, we better take this position very seriously that we have now. Because it doesn't get any easier than that. We are chanting as Vaishnavas 64 rounds. Are we? No. We're chanting 16 now. Because the Prabhupada has cut up 3/4 of it, and still can get back to the spiritual world. And so this is something we have to take seriously. If you're not doing 16 rounds, in the next few weeks or months, get to that point and get to it quickly. Because if the demigods want your position, imagine how lucky you are. If they want your position, they want to come and be a child and then grow up in this process. Because they know how much easier it is to go to the spiritual world in this process that's here. Okay, one, application. This is on you. Anybody can do this. Answer this. List your activities in Krishna consciousness during the day. What are the times that you remember Krishna? Anyone want to start? List your activities in Krishna consciousness during the day. Beginning from the morning. What do we usually do? Okay, Matthew, you're smiling, so maybe you can start.
In the morning when we start praying, then and first thing we get up, we remember Krishna.
Okay, wonderful. You pray, you what, chant?
Chant.
Okay, all right. What else you do?
Chant and arti.
And arti, okay. All right, wonderful.
Yoga.
Bhoga offering, okay, yes. All of these wants to, your mindset of Krishna at that time. All right, anybody else? So chanting and so on in the morning. So everybody that's smiling, that means that you got a question that Mataji has already answered what they do, right? You do the same things? That's pretty much in the morning. Starting your day with chanting. You start your day with Krishna, end your day with Krishna. Start your day with Krishna and end your day with Krishna. Means going to bed, that's the difficult part, right? You get up in the morning, you're wide awake. But when you're going to bed, your body wants to sleep, and you just rest. But you do need to do something in Krishna consciousness before you give the body rest. If nothing, at least chant the Hare Krishna mantra a few times before you go to sleep. And if your body is very tired, you can chant in your mind before you go to sleep. That's not too difficult if you don't want to talk. You definitely can remember the mantra and say that and then go to sleep. It's always a good idea to take rest having Krishna in mind before resting. Some of us were even taught before we rest, we should ask our spiritual master or ask Srila Prabhupada to engage us in service while we sleep. And you don't think that's possible, but it's very, very, very possible. Because when we sleep, the physical body is lying down. That's not going to do anything. It's not going anywhere. But the subtle body, what we call the dream body, the subtle body is active then. And the subtle body can also perform service. That's if we ask. That's if we ask that we perform service, it definitely can be done. So then in your dreams, you will see yourself performing service then. That's your subtle body acting in service. So then your nighttime you're serving, daytime as much as you can you're serving. So then most of the time then, day and night. So 1/3 of our lives, sometimes 1/4 of our lives, depending on how long people sleep, we spend it sleeping, 6 to 8 hours. So why not use that for service? But since the physical body won't do it, all you do is just ask the Lord, especially the prayers are heard, I didn't say Krishna, I just said the spiritual master. The prayers are heard quicker through the spiritual master than to the Lord himself, because the Lord has appointed Guru. Guruship is designed by and literally put in place by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the Lord says, Guru is my representative. So once you go to Guru, you're obeying Krishna. Krishna wants you to go to Guru. So if you don't have an initiated Guru, then you ask Srila Prabhupada, the Param Guru. In that prayer before you go to bed, please let me serve. The Hare Krishna mantra, actually, that's what it means. Dear Lord, dear Radha, dear Krishna, please engage me in devotional service to you. So if you go to sleep thinking that way, chanting, even in your mind before you go to sleep, you're too tired to say it out of your mouth, you're still asking the same thing to use you in service. So we can ask for service also before we go to sleep. Okay, so that's something that we should, well, I should remember to do it too. I don't do it always. I should remember to ask that. That is a very powerful prayer. And if you do, your dreams, in fact, and this is from my own experience, your dreams can be that way, where you actually are serving. All right, preaching is the essence. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The preacher is recognized by Krishna. If one gives a conditioned soul a chance to become Krishna conscious, all his activities are approved by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is extremely pleased. Okay, so if one gives conditioned souls a chance to become Krishna conscious, then all his activities are approved by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is extremely pleased. So if I'm the one preaching, then does it mean I'm the only one that Krishna is pleased with? No, not at all. Our activities, what we do, is also a sign of preaching. When we are among, especially when we are among non-devotees, whoever we are, how we act with them, how respectful we are to them, and how nicely we speak to them, how well behaved we are with them, and how we help our children to also be well behaved around them, all of these things that are noticed. They are noticed. And they're noticed, they will say, this is a good person, or this person belongs to a good family, and so on. So they think well of you. When they think well of you, then they know whatever you're connected with that is spiritual also has to be good, because bad things don't come to good people. Bad things are not taught to good people. You cannot be a good person being taught bad things. And so they will automatically assume, they may not know it's Krishna consciousness, but they will know whatever it is good. So when they get an opportunity, and Krishna can set up an opportunity to come where you'll be able to talk to them a little bit about what your background spiritually is, and of course that gives you the opportunity to bring up Krishna consciousness, if they want to hear about it. You bring up Krishna consciousness. Therefore, your activities are also preaching. Don't forget that. The activities are preaching. So you have to be very, very careful to be in good spirits, to be enthusiastic, and also act well around people the whole time. Anybody that says, well, that's just the way I am, that person won't grow. There's always room for improvement. As soon as you say, that's just the way I am, I'm sorry, that's Maya. That's exactly what it means. It's Maya. Unless you're a pure devotee. A pure devotee, sure, that's the way he is. And they won't even speak like that. Okay? But every time we should look for improvement. And improvement comes through hearing. When you hear more, then you get told more what to do. Krishna always arranges for what we need to hear to be told to us. We just have to be willing to hear. So we can hear lectures, and of course our minds, listen to music. Maharaj Ambarish has done it all, as you can see. I don't need to repeat this, using all the senses. The way we do basically the same things as much as possible as he has done, then we'll be in the right frame of mind. So, it continues, following the examples of the previous acharyas, all the members of the Krishna consciousness movement should try to benefit the conditioned souls by inducing them to become Krishna conscious and giving them all facilities to do so. One of the easiest things to do is to give prasada. One of the easiest things, people don't refuse food, especially snacks. If you have a whole party and people are out and you serve prasadam, that's prepared food, that's one thing. But little snacks, you give those out. Any reason that comes up at work to be able to give something out, that's so prasadam, take advantage of it. Take advantage of it. I was giving prasadam to my students. We had to make a reason to give, and guess what? We're giving to them the final exam time. The day of the final exam, I was actually thinking, I did it for a while. Of course, it depends on the school, right? This is a community college, Harrisburg Community College. Harrisburg Community College. We got an opportunity to do that. And I just said, well, my wife is Indian, she's very pious, and he knows that you are kind of in quite a bit of anxiety because I've set the exam, you have to do it, and this is his way of, especially towards this time, towards Christmas. So that's a Christmas wish to give to all of you guys. Oh, tell your wife it's very, thank you very much. I actually bring it, cut it up, cut up the cake and everything, and give it out. And some people say, well, I'm watching my weight. I said, nah, you can jog about half a mile to get this off. I'll insist that they all have some. But they all have it. But I know it's special. They don't know, but I know they know. And they think I'm a very nice guy and I have a very nice wife. But I know I've given them prasadam. That's the thing that I really wanted to do. Okay, so you find different ways, all kinds of ways it's possible to do this. All right. By such activities, a preacher or anyone who endeavors to spread Krishna consciousness is recognized by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So by such activities, a preacher or anyone who endeavors to spread Krishna consciousness is recognized by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As the Lord himself confirms in Bhagavad Gita, for one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees, devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end, he will come back to me. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. So, it's not only preaching. It's like things we just talked about, giving out prasadam, many, many ways. You just have to use our minds. This is what Maharaj Ambarish was doing the last thing, putting his mind on ways in which he can spread Krishna consciousness. If there's an opportunity to speak, sure, do that. But the way people like food these days, prasadam is a very, 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 very strong weapon here that you can use to give out easily. And in fact, in Nectar of Instruction, Rupa Goswami comes out and says the 6 exchanges of love. To give gifts, to receive gifts, to express in confidence whatever you want to express in Krishna consciousness to another person, and receive confidential information from them, and finally to give prasadam and also to accept prasadam. So we definitely can give prasadam as a way of being nice to others, especially who are non-devotees, and next it starts the whole process, the mindset. So prasadam has very, 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 very potent advantages. One of them I just mentioned. If someone is supposed to be based on how they're acting in this world now, supposed to be in a non-human body next life, based on how they act, and they take prashadam, they will get a human body. Prashadam will negate that unfortunate situations. For example, those who are involved in nudity, and you know what I'm talking about, nudity, nude people and all of that, the stuff they do and put in the internet and all of that, they are all going, I don't know, among other things that's going to happen, they're definitely going to be in tree bodies. They're going to be trees next life. Expose yourself, you get exposed outside, the weather and everything. But if such a person has one time, one snack, that's prashadam, that situation will be taken away from them. They'll come back still in human bodies. The suffering won't stop, but at least they won't be in a tree. Because trees go, you know, the winter. I mean, would you like to be in a tree the winter, what they go through? So, it's that powerful. So yes, if you can preach, yes, do it. Otherwise, especially prashadam, and your own behavior says a lot. So thank you for hearing. Thank you for tolerating me. And do you have any questions yourself? Before we end this, the Boga?
I have a question for you.
Thanks.
Like, sometimes we read and then it says that, chanting is the best thing that you can do. Other place when I read, it says that, giving the prasadam to the devotee is the best thing you can do. Other place I read, it says that spreading the Krishna consciousness to the other people is the best thing you can do. It's confusing me.
And to add to that only, I read yesterday, book distribution is better than kirtan or better than chanting also.
Book distribution is better than
It's like confusing, when we read more, we get more confusion. So just clarify a little bit for us.
Okay. The clarification is very simple. I know about this. And I'll add one more to it before we get to this. Many times, when someone is addressing a pure devotee of the Lord, they're going to say that they're the best devotee. I haven't seen one that someone else had to say they're the best devotee. So who is the best devotee? We think the best in terms of the topmost thing. The answer to that, and we all should remember, they are all the best. Everything about Krishna is the best. Everything not about Krishna is not good. So when those kind of expressions come out, those are feelings, strong feelings behind the person that's expressing that particular activity. Then they use the word best. So they use it for us in a general sense. You don't use it in a specific sense. Because then this devotee is the best, that devotee is the best, that devotee is the best. That's already a contradiction. How can so many people be the best? The process, if you're involved in the process, that's the best thing. If you're involved in the transcendental process, it is the best thing. Therefore, everything about it will be the best. So you're going to see so many times, to understand is because Krishna consciousness is topmost. So everything connected to it is automatically the best thing. And everything outside of it is unfortunate. So that's all. So you're going to see, yes, you will see so many times, so many things talked about, it's the best and so on. And sometimes when they compare, now the comparisons, as you were putting out, Prabhu, the comparisons come from spiritual bias. And I'll use the word kind of advisedly, but bias on the part of the person that's talking. Many times there are devotees who are involved in a particular relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when they write or when they preach, they write and preach based on their connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And they don't even take the other parts of it to the point where they express so much greatness about it, if you know what I mean. They are so connected, like if somebody is connected with Radha Krishna and activities, like Raghunath Das Goswami, he talks about Radha and Krishna, that's all he talks about in Vrindavan. But there are other activities the Lord is involved in. You wouldn't talk about that. You would not. It doesn't mean that he doesn't recognize that the other things the Supreme Personality of Godhead does, and the other rasas that are wonderful. But they speak based on what they're connected to, because there's so much in bliss about what they're connected to. They will say it's the best. They will wind up saying it's the best. They always say. Just like children. Daddy, my daddy is the best daddy. Is it true? But to the child it is. Because he only knows daddy and he relates to daddy only. It's the same way the devotees like that, they relate based on the rasta they have with Krishna. And they're so much in bliss about it, that's all they talk about, and they'll say that's the best thing. But actually, everything about Krishna is the best. So you're going to see it over and over and over. Don't let it bother you. Everybody, the person that's talking, what they're involved with is what they're saying. They're so much in bliss, they'll say, I can't see anything better than this. So then they say, it's the best. So that's the way it is. It's interesting. I mean, I've seen it so many times. I find it quite interesting, but we know it's been explained to us that everything about Krishna is topmost anyway. That's why he speaks like that. Any other comments, questions? Okay. Hare Krishna.